Sometimes the most ordinary moments hide the most extraordinary secrets. What would you do if you saw something that didn't belong, something that made your heart race with fear? Would you trust your instincts, or would you convince yourself it was nothing? This is the true story of Emma Richardson, a 17-year-old girl whose sharp eyes and brave heart uncovered a truth that would shake an entire community to its core. It's about the moment when ignoring your gut feeling could mean the difference between saving lives and letting darkness win. In a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew everyone, where children played safely in the streets, no one expected evil to park right outside their homes. But sometimes, the most dangerous predators hide in plain sight, wearing ordinary faces and driving ordinary vans. And sometimes, it takes just one person, one young woman who refused to look away, to expose the monster lurking in their midst. This is Emma's story. This is the day she spotted the van. Emma Richardson pressed her face against the cool glass of her bedroom window, watching the rain create tiny rivers down the surface. At 17, she had developed a habit of observing the world from her second-floor perch, especially on quiet Saturday afternoons like this one. Maple Street was usually bustling with activity, but the November drizzle had driven most neighbors indoors. The white van appeared around 3 in the afternoon, moving slowly down their usually peaceful street. Emma barely glanced at it initially, assuming it belonged to a delivery service or perhaps a contractor working on one of the neighboring houses. But as minutes turned to an hour, then 2, the van remained parked across from the Williams family home, its engine occasionally rumbling to life before falling silent again. Something felt wrong. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that crept up her spine like cold fingers. The van had no company logos, no license plates that she could see clearly from her distance, and the windows were tinted so dark that she couldn't make out who was inside. In a neighborhood where everyone knew each other's cars, visitors, and daily routines, this anonymous vehicle stuck out like a sore thumb. She grabbed her phone and called her best friend Sarah, who lived just 3 houses down. Sarah's voice was cheerful when she answered, background noise suggesting she was helping her mother with weekend cleaning. "Hey, Em, what's up? Don't tell me you're still stuck doing homework on a Saturday." "Sarah, look out your front window. Do you see that white van parked across from the Williams house?" There was a pause, then the sound of footsteps. "Yeah, I see it." "So what?" "Probably someone visiting or making a delivery." "For 3 hours?" "I've been watching it, Sarah. It's just sitting there. The engine keeps starting and stopping, but no one gets out." Sarah laughed, but it sounded forced. "Em, you watch way too many crime shows. It's probably just someone talking on the phone or eating lunch. You're being paranoid." But Emma couldn't let it go. Her father, Detective Michael Richardson, had always taught her to trust her instincts. He'd shared countless stories about cases that broke open because someone noticed something that didn't fit the pattern, someone who spoke up when others chose to look away. By evening, the van was still there. Emma's parents had returned from their day of shopping and errands, and she decided to voice her concerns to her father. She found him in his home office, reviewing case files that he'd brought home for the weekend. "Dad, there's been a van parked on our street all day. It's been there for hours, just sitting." Detective Richardson looked up from his paperwork, his weathered face showing the attention he always gave to his daughter's observations. At 45, he'd seen enough to know that unusual behavior often preceded trouble. "What kind of van, sweetheart? Can you describe it?" "White, no markings, tinted windows. It's parked across from the Williams house, but I don't think they're expecting anyone." Mrs. Williams was gardening earlier and kept looking at it nervously. Her father set down his pen and joined her at the window. The van was still there, barely visible under the dim streetlight. As they watched, the engine started again, idled for a few minutes, then stopped. "That is odd," he admitted. "I'll take a walk around the block, maybe get a closer look." "Be careful, Dad." Detective Richardson pulled on his jacket and stepped into the cool evening air. The street was quiet except for the distant sound of television sets and the occasional car passing on the main road. He walked casually, nodding to Mr. Peterson, who was bringing in his garbage cans, stopping to pet the Johnsons' golden retriever who had escaped their backyard again. As he approached the van, he tried to appear nonchalant while observing every detail. The vehicle was older, maybe 10 years, with several small dents and scratches that suggested heavy use. Most concerning was the complete absence of license plates front or rear. The windows were indeed tinted beyond legal limits, making it impossible to see inside. He walked past, continued around the block, and returned home with a growing sense of unease. Emma, I want you to keep an eye on that van tomorrow. If it's still there or if it comes back, I want to know immediately. Sunday morning brought clear skies and the usual sounds of suburban life. Children rode bicycles, families headed to church, and the smell of bacon and coffee drifted from kitchen windows. Emma positioned herself at her window early, partly hoping the van would be gone and this would all turn out to be nothing. But at 10:30 it returned. This time, Emma was ready. She had her phone charged, a notepad ready, and her father's binoculars borrowed from his bird-watching kit. The van parked in almost the same spot, but this time, Emma noticed something that made her blood run cold. The vehicle stopped directly in view of the playground, where the Henderson twins, 8-year-old Sophie and Sam, were playing on their swing set. Their parents, both doctors who worked weekend shifts, often left the children with their teenage babysitter, Morgan, who Emma knew from school. Through the binoculars, Emma could make out a figure in the driver's seat. Male, wearing a dark baseball cap, appearing to be watching the playground intently. When Mrs. Arissa Chen walked her small dog past the van, the figure seemed to duck down, trying to avoid being seen. Emma's hands trembled as she speed-dialed her father's number. Dad, it's back. The van. And Dad, it's parked where whoever's inside has a perfect view of the Henderson kids playing outside. I'm calling for backup and heading home now. Emma, I need you to do exactly as I say. Don't approach that van. Don't let anyone in the neighborhood approach it. If it moves, call 911 immediately and give them the direction it's heading. Should I warn Morgan? She's watching Sophie and Sam. Yes, but be subtle. Tell her to bring the children inside for lunch or something. Don't mention the van directly over the phone. Emma called Morgan, trying to keep her voice casual despite her racing heart. Hey Morgan, it's Emma Richardson from down the street. I was wondering if you could do me a favor. My mom wanted to know if Sophie and Sam would like some fresh cookies she just baked. Maybe they could come inside and you could bring them over? Morgan's voice was cheerful and unsuspecting. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, they'd love that. We were just about to head in for lunch anyway. Emma watched through the binoculars as Morgan called the children inside. The moment they disappeared into the house, she saw the figure in the van sit up straighter, then start the engine. Her phone rang before she could call her father back. Emma, this is important. I need you to write down everything you can see about that van as it drives away. Every detail, no matter how small. The van pulled away from the curb slowly, almost reluctantly. As it passed under the street light near the corner, Emma caught a glimpse of the license plate area. Her heart sank as she realized what she was seeing. Dad, the license plate. It's not missing. It's covered with tape or something dark. That's very important, sweetheart. What else? There's a dent in the rear bumper, left side. And Dad, there's something attached to the roof, like a small antenna or something. You're doing great. Which direction is it heading? Toward Elm Street, toward the elementary school. Emma heard her father curse under his breath, something he rarely did in front of her. Emma, I need you to call 911 right now. Tell them Detective Richardson requested immediate patrol presence on Elm Street and the surrounding school area. Tell them we have a suspicious vehicle possibly involved in surveillance of minors. As Emma made the call, her mind raced with terrible possibilities. The elementary school would be hosting their annual fall festival next weekend. Hundreds of children and families would be gathering for games, food, and fun. If someone was planning something awful, she pushed the thought away and focused on providing clear, detailed information to the emergency dispatcher. 20 minutes later, her father arrived home with 2 police cruisers following close behind. Detective Richardson's face was grim as he climbed the stairs to Emma's room. The van? Gone. It headed toward the school area, but the patrol units didn't see it. Dad, what's really going on? Her father sat heavily on her desk, chair suddenly looking much older than his 45 years. 3 weeks ago, we got a report from Riverside, about 20 miles north of here. A white van matching this description was spotted near their middle school. 2 days later, An 11-year-old girl went missing from her school bus stop. She was found safe 4 days later, but she'd been held somewhere and couldn't remember much about her captor or location. Emma felt sick. Do you think it's the same person? I don't know. But Emma, your observations might have prevented something terrible from happening today. The way you described the van's behavior, the positioning to watch those children, the covered license plates, this isn't some innocent explanation. What happens now? Now we take this very seriously. I'm going to have patrol units increase their presence in this neighborhood and around all the local schools. We're going to canvass the area, talk to neighbors, check security cameras. And Emma, I need you to promise me something. What? If you see that van again, anywhere, anytime, you call 911 immediately. Don't try to investigate on your own. Don't try to get a closer look. This person, if he's who we think he might be, is very dangerous. As night fell over Maple Street, Emma found herself unable to sleep. Every car that passed made her heart race. Every sound outside her window made her jump. She kept thinking about Sophie and Sam Henderson, about how innocent they'd looked playing on their swing set, about how easily something terrible could have happened if she hadn't been watching. The next morning brought news that made Emma's blood run cold. Her father received a call at 6 a.m. from his captain. Another white van, possibly the same one, had been spotted near Lincoln Elementary School in the neighboring town of Oakfield. This time, a school security camera had captured partial footage. Emma, get dressed. I want you to come to the station with me. We need you to look at this footage and tell us if it's the same van. The ride to the police station was quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Emma stared out the window at the familiar streets of her hometown, wondering how many other children were in danger while this predator roamed free. At the station, Detective Richardson led Emma to a small conference room, where several other officers were gathered around a computer screen. Captain Martinez, a stern woman in her 50s whom Emma had known since childhood, greeted them with a worried expression. Emma, we appreciate you coming in. What you're about to see might be disturbing, so if you need to stop at any time, just say so. The footage was grainy, black and white from the school's parking lot camera. But even in the poor quality, Emma could make out the distinctive dent in the rear bumper, the covered license plate area, and what appeared to be the same antenna-like attachment on the roof. That's the same van, she said without hesitation. I'm sure of it. Captain Martinez nodded grimly. Then we're dealing with a very serious situation. This individual has now been spotted surveilling children in 3 different communities over the past month. Emma, your father tells me you've been very observant about this vehicle's behavior. Can you tell me exactly what made you suspicious? Emma took a deep breath and recounted everything she'd observed. The length of time the van had remained parked, its strategic positioning to watch the children, the way the driver had ducked when someone walked by, the deliberate covering of the license plates. You may have saved lives, Captain Martinez said simply. Most people would have dismissed this as nothing unusual. Your willingness to pay attention and speak up has given us our first real lead in this case. As they prepared to leave, Detective Richardson pulled Emma aside. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. But I'm also worried. This person clearly has a pattern, and our neighborhood was part of that pattern. I want you to be extra careful over the next few weeks. No walking alone, no staying out late, and always be aware of your surroundings. Emma nodded, but her mind was already racing ahead to what she knew she had to do next. She couldn't just wait and hope the police caught this person before he struck again. She'd started something by noticing that van, and she intended to see it through to the end. What Emma didn't know was that her story was just beginning, and that the simple act of looking out her bedroom window would lead her into a web of danger and deception that would test her courage in ways she never could have imagined. The following week passed in a blur of heightened security and nervous energy throughout the community. Emma noticed the changes immediately. More police cruisers patrolling the neighborhoods, parents walking their children to and from school instead of letting them ride bikes, and an overall sense of unease that hung over the usually peaceful suburb like a dark cloud. Emma threw herself into researching everything she could about child predators and their methods. She spent hours online reading law enforcement guides, studying case files that were publicly available, and learning about surveillance techniques. Her father, initially hesitant about her involvement, eventually recognized that his daughter's analytical mind and attention to detail could be valuable assets in the investigation. It was on Thursday afternoon that Emma made her second crucial discovery. She was walking home from school with Sarah and their friend Marcus when they decided to take a detour through Riverside Park. The park was usually busy with joggers and dog walkers, but today it seemed unusually quiet. As they passed the playground area, Emma's sharp eyes caught something that made her stop dead in her tracks. "Guys, wait!" she whispered, grabbing Sarah's arm. "What now?" Sarah asked, but there was less skepticism in her voice than there had been the week before. The news of the police investigation had spread through the school, and Emma's reputation as the girl who spotted the danger had earned her newfound respect. Emma pointed toward a bench near the edge of the playground. "See that man? The one in the gray jacket reading a newspaper?" Marcus squinted in that direction. "Yeah, so what? It's a public park. I've been watching him for 10 minutes. He hasn't turned a single page of that newspaper, and his eyes keep following the children on the playground. Plus, look where he's sitting. That bench gives him a perfect view of all the park entrances and exits." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "You think he's connected to the van guy? I don't know, but something feels wrong. Dad taught me that predators often work in patterns, and part of that pattern is surveillance. They study their targets, learn their routines, figure out the best times and places to approach them." Emma pulled out her phone and snapped a discreet photo of the man. He appeared to be in his 40s, medium build, with thinning brown hair and a beard. What concerned her most was his behavior, the way he would glance around nervously every few minutes. The fact that he'd chosen a secluded bench rather than one in the main walking area, and his intense focus on the children despite pretending to read. "We need to get out of here and call my dad," Emma said quietly. "But we need to do it without drawing his attention." They began walking toward the park exit, trying to appear casual while Emma's heart hammered in her chest. Just as they reached the main path, Emma's phone buzzed with a text message that made her stomach drop. The message was from an unknown number. "Stop watching me, or you'll regret it." Emma's hands trembled as she showed the message to her friends. Marcus, who had initially been skeptical of Emma's suspicions, now looked genuinely frightened. "How does he know your number?" Sarah whispered. "I don't know, but we need to leave now." They walked quickly toward the park exit, Emma's mind racing. The fact that this person had her phone number meant he'd been watching her, possibly for days. The threat was clear and direct, suggesting someone who was becoming desperate or feeling cornered. Emma called her father the moment they were safely outside the park. "Dad, I need you to meet us at the corner of Riverside and 5th Street. Something's happened." Detective Richardson arrived within minutes, his face grim when Emma showed him the threatening text message. His protective instincts kicked into high gear as he immediately called for backup units to search the park. "Emma, this changes everything. You're not just a witness anymore. You're potentially a target. We need to take immediate precautions." "But Dad, we might have found something important." "The man in the park, he was definitely surveilling those children. And the fact that he threatened me means we're getting close to something." "Or it means you've put yourself in serious danger," her father replied, though she could see the conflict in his eyes. He was torn between protecting his daughter and recognizing her potential contribution to the case. The police search of Riverside Park turned up nothing. The man Emma had photographed was gone, leaving no trace except for the newspaper he'd left behind on the bench. The newspaper, when processed for fingerprints, yielded only smudges and partial prints that weren't immediately useful. However, the investigation took a significant turn when Detective Richardson's technical team analyzed Emma's threatening text message. The number was a disposable cell phone, purchased with cash 3 days earlier from an electronics store in downtown Millfield, about 15 miles from their suburb. Captain Martinez decided to review security footage from the store where the phone was purchased. What they found sent chills through the entire investigation team. The buyer was a middle-aged man with a beard, wearing a gray jacket and baseball cap, who paid cash and specifically asked for a phone that didn't require ID verification. Most importantly, the timestamp showed he'd purchased the phone just 2 hours after Emma had first reported the suspicious van. "This confirms our worst fears," Captain Martinez told the assembled task force. We're dealing with someone who's been watching our investigation, possibly watching Emma specifically. He knew she was the one who reported him, and he's prepared enough to acquire untraceable communication methods. Detective Richardson felt a cold fear settle in his stomach. Captain, I need to request protective detail for my daughter and my family. Already approved. But Mike, we need to think strategically here. Emma has become this person's focus, which is dangerous, but it might also be our best opportunity to catch him. Absolutely not, Detective Richardson said firmly. I'm not using my daughter as bait. Captain Martinez held up her hand. I'm not suggesting we put her in danger, but Emma has proven she has exceptional observational skills and instincts. With proper protection and precautions, her insights could be crucial in solving this case before someone gets hurt. Emma, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke up. Dad, I want to help. This person threatened me, which means he sees me as a threat to whatever he's planning. If I can help catch him before he hurts a child, I have to try. The discussion continued for another hour, with Detective Richardson's paternal instincts warring against his professional understanding of the case's urgency. Finally, they reached a compromise. Emma would continue her normal routines, but under constant surveillance by plainclothes officers. Any suspicious activity would be immediately reported, and she would never be left alone. The arrangement began the following Monday. Emma could sense the presence of her protection detail but tried to maintain normalcy. Officer Jessica Chen, a young detective not much older than Emma herself, posed as a new transfer student at Emma's high school. Officer David Park, an expert in surveillance, positioned himself in various locations around the neighborhood in different disguises. Everything seemed normal. Emma attended classes, walked home with friends, and helped her father review case files in the evening. She almost began to believe that perhaps the threat had been empty, that whoever had sent it had been scared off by the increased police presence. Then, on Thursday evening, everything changed again. Emma was in her room doing homework when she received another text from the same unknown number. Pretty girl with dark hair walking home from school. Red backpack. Very easy to follow. Stop interfering or next time I won't just watch. Emma's blood turned to ice. The text described her perfectly, down to the red backpack she'd carried that day. Someone had followed her home, watched her closely enough to note details, and done so without being detected by her police protection. She ran downstairs to find her father, her hands shaking as she showed him the message. Detective Richardson's face went pale as he read the text. He immediately called Officer Chen, who confirmed that she'd been with Emma all day and hadn't noticed any surveillance. Dad, how is this possible? If Officer Chen was with me all day, how did someone get close enough to see my backpack and describe me so accurately? Detective Richardson was already on the phone with Captain Martinez, his voice tight with controlled anger. Captain, we have a problem. Our protection detail was compromised somehow. Emma received another threat with details that could only come from direct observation. Within an hour, Emma's house was swarming with law enforcement. The backyard was searched with floodlights. Neighbors were interviewed, and every security camera in a 3-block radius was being reviewed. Officer Chen looked shaken as she reported to Detective Richardson. Sir, I don't understand how this happened. I was with Emma all day. The only time I wasn't in direct visual contact was during her chemistry class, when I had to wait in the hallway, but I was watching the doors. What about windows? Emma asked quietly. The chemistry lab has big windows that face the parking lot. Someone could have watched from outside. The realization hit them all simultaneously. While Officer Chen had been protecting against someone approaching Emma directly, she hadn't considered that the surveillance might come from outside the building. Detective Richardson made a decision that would change the trajectory of the entire case. We're going to use this. If this person wants to watch Emma, we're going to give him something to see. But this time, we'll be watching him. The plan they developed over the next several hours was risky, but carefully calculated. Emma would maintain her normal routine, but the entire protection detail would be repositioned to watch for watchers rather than staying close to Emma herself. Hidden cameras would be placed around the school and Emma's neighborhood. Most importantly, Emma would wear a discreet GPS tracker and a small audio transmitter that would allow the team to monitor her location and surroundings at all times. Emma felt nervous but determined as she prepared for what they all hoped would be the day they caught their suspect. She chose her clothes carefully, picked up her red backpack, and headed to school, knowing that somewhere in the shadows, a dangerous predator was watching her. What none of them expected was that the predator was much closer than they'd imagined, and that his interest in Emma was about to escalate from surveillance to direct contact. Friday morning started like any other, but Emma could feel the tension in the air. Her protection team was positioned strategically around the school. Officer Martinez disguised as a maintenance worker, Detective Williams posing as a substitute teacher, and Officer Chen continuing her role as a student. Emma's first 3 classes passed without incident. During lunch, she sat with Sarah and Marcus at their usual table in the cafeteria, trying to appear normal while scanning the room for anything unusual. It was during her afternoon free period that everything began to unravel. Emma was in the library working on a research paper when she received a note passed to her by Tommy Rodriguez, a freshman who worked as a library aide. "Some guy outside asked me to give this to you," Tommy said quietly. "He said you were expecting it." Emma's hands trembled as she unfolded the small piece of paper. The message was written in block letters. "Meet me in the parking lot in 5 minutes or your friends will pay the price." Emma looked around frantically for Officer Chen, but she was nowhere in sight. The library was nearly empty except for a few students studying quietly in the far corner. Emma's mind raced through her options. She could alert the protection team through her transmitter, but if this person was watching her, he might panic and disappear before they could catch him. Worse, his threat about her friends suggested he might have some way to hurt Sarah or Marcus. She made a decision that would haunt her for weeks to come. Emma stood up and walked toward the library exit, subtly activating her GPS tracker, but not her audio transmitter, hoping to avoid alerting the suspect while still allowing her team to follow her location. As she pushed open the school's side door and stepped into the parking lot, Emma's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. The afternoon sun was bright, creating sharp shadows between the parked cars. She didn't have to wait long. A figure emerged from behind a white van parked near the edge of the lot. Even from a distance, Emma could see it was the same van she'd observed on her street weeks earlier. The man approaching her matched the description from her photograph at the park. Medium height, graying beard, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. "You're a smart girl, Emma Richardson," the man said, his voice surprisingly calm and conversational. "Too smart for your own good." Emma fought to keep her voice steady. "What do you want?" "I want you to stop interfering with my work." "Do you have any idea how long I spent planning my activities in this area? Months of careful preparation, ruined by one nosy teenager with binoculars. Your activities?" Emma took a small step backward, hoping her protection team was tracking her location and moving to surround the area. "Don't play innocent. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Those children at the playground, the school schedules I was studying, the perfect opportunities I was developing. All of it compromised because you couldn't mind your own business." The man's casual tone while discussing his plans to harm children made Emma feel sick, but it also made her angry. Those children have names. They have families who love them. They're not opportunities for you to hurt. They're whatever I say they are, the man replied, his voice taking on a harder edge. And you, little girl, are a problem that needs to be solved. Emma realized with growing terror that this man had no intention of letting her walk away from this conversation. She could see the van's side door was partially open, and she understood now why he'd chosen this isolated part of the parking lot. Her hand moved slowly toward the panic button on her GPS device, but the man noticed the movement. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. I have friends watching your little buddies Sarah and Marcus. One phone call from me, and they'll learn what happens to people who get in my way." Emma's blood ran cold. "You're lying." "Am I?" Sarah Chen lives on Oak Street in the blue house with white shutters. Walks home every day at 3:15, stops at Murphy's Corner store for candy. Marcus Williams lives on Pine Avenue, rides a red mountain bike to school, plays soccer on Wednesday evenings at the community center. Should I continue? Emma realized that this man had been watching not just her, but everyone close to her. The level of surveillance and preparation he demonstrated was terrifying in its thoroughness. "What do you want?" she asked again, stalling for time while praying that her protection team would realize where she was. "I want you to get in that van voluntarily, and I want you to disappear quietly. No more police reports. No more disruptions to my plans. In exchange, your friends stay safe." Emma looked around the parking lot, hoping to see Officer Chen or any of her protection detail approaching. The lot seemed eerily empty, with only the distant sound of traffic from the main road. "And if I refuse?" The man smiled, and Emma saw genuine evil in his expression. "Then we'll find out how much you really care about your friends." Emma's mind raced through everything her father had taught her about dangerous situations. Never get in the car. Never go to a secondary location. Fight and scream and run, no matter what threats are made. But this situation was different. This man clearly had extensive knowledge about her friends' routines, and his confidence suggested he had some way to carry out his threats against them. Emma made a decision that would require every ounce of courage she possessed. "Okay," she said quietly, "I'll come with you, but you have to promise to leave my friends alone." "Smart girl," the man said, gesturing toward the van. "Very smart indeed." As Emma took her first step toward the white van, she heard the distant sound of sirens approaching. The man's head snapped up, his expression shifting from confident to panicked in an instant. "You called them," he snarled. "No, I didn't. I swear I didn't call anyone." But even as Emma said the words, she realized what had happened. Her GPS tracker had been transmitting her location the entire time, and when she'd remained stationary in the parking lot for several minutes, her protection team had become suspicious and moved to investigate. The man grabbed Emma's arm roughly. "Get in the van. Now let her go." The voice came from Detective Richardson, who emerged from behind a row of cars with his weapon drawn. Officer Chen appeared from another direction, also armed, while police sirens grew louder as backup units approached the school. "Let her go and step away from the vehicle," Detective Richardson commanded, his voice steady despite the terror he felt seeing his daughter in immediate danger. The man's grip on Emma's arm tightened painfully. "Oh, I'll hurt her." "I swear I'll hurt her right here if you come any closer." "Dad, don't!" Emma called out, surprised by the strength in her own voice. "I'm okay. Just stay where you are." Emma looked directly into the man's eyes. "You're surrounded. Whatever you were planning, it's over. Let me go, and maybe you can walk away from this." "Shut up," the man hissed. But Emma could see the panic growing in his expression as police sirens surrounded the school from multiple directions. Emma knew this was her moment. The man was distracted, focused on the approaching police rather than maintaining his grip on her. She remembered the self-defense techniques her father had taught her and acted on pure instinct. Emma drove her elbow backward into the man's stomach as hard as she could, while simultaneously stomping down on his foot. His grip loosened just enough for her to break free and run toward her father. The man lunged toward the van, but Officer Chen was faster. She tackled him to the ground before he could reach the driver's door, while Detective Richardson rushed to his daughter's side. "Emma! Are you hurt? Did he hurt you?" "I'm okay, Dad." "I'm okay." As backup units flooded the parking lot and the suspect was handcuffed and placed under arrest, Emma finally allowed herself to shake with the adrenaline and fear she'd been suppressing. The nightmare that had begun with a suspicious van parked outside her window was finally coming to an end. But Emma was about to discover that this man's arrest would reveal secrets that would shock the entire community and change her understanding of the danger that had been lurking in their midst. The arrest of David Henley, as they learned his name was, sent shockwaves through the community. But as Detective Richardson and his team began processing the evidence found in Henley's van and apartment, they realized they had uncovered something far more sinister than anyone had imagined. Emma sat in her father's office at the police station, still trembling slightly from her encounter in the school parking lot. The events of the afternoon felt surreal, like something from a movie rather than her actual life. Officer Chen had stayed with her while her father and Captain Martinez conducted the initial interrogation of their suspect. "Emma," Captain Martinez said as she entered the office, her expression grave, "before we continue, I need you to understand that what we're about to discuss may be disturbing." What you've helped us uncover goes far beyond what we initially thought we were dealing with. Emma straightened in her chair, trying to project strength despite the fear that still coursed through her veins. I can handle it. I want to know what we stopped. Captain Martinez sat across from Emma and opened a file folder. David Henley isn't just a potential child predator. The evidence we've found suggests he's been part of a much larger operation. Emma, your observation skills and courage may have helped us break up an entire network. Detective Richardson returned to the office, his face pale and drawn. Emma had seen that expression before, usually after he'd worked cases involving children. It was the look of a man who'd seen too much evil in the world. Dad, what did you find? Her father sat heavily in his chair. In Henley's van, we found detailed surveillance photos of children from 4 different school districts. Not just random photos, but organized profiles including names, addresses, daily routines, and family information. Emma, there were over 200 children documented in his files. Emma felt sick. 200? That's not the worst part, Captain Martinez continued. We also found communication records with at least 12 other individuals across 3 states. This appears to be an organized network sharing information about potential targets and coordinating their activities. You mean there are more of them? We believe so. The FBI has taken over the investigation now that we've established interstate activity. They're working to identify and arrest the other members of this network. Emma absorbed this information slowly. What had started as her simple observation of a suspicious van had uncovered a sophisticated criminal organization that had been operating undetected for months, possibly years. Emma, her father said gently, there's something else. The FBI found your name in Henley's files. What do you mean? Captain Martinez opened another folder. Henley had been researching you for weeks. He knew your schedule, your friends' schedules, your family's routines. He even had photographs of you taken from a distance outside the school and around the neighborhood. Emma's hands clenched into fists. The idea that this monster had been studying her like prey for weeks made her feel violated and angry. How long has he been watching me? Based on the timestamps on his photos and notes, we believe he started surveillance on you shortly after your first report about the van. Initially, it appeared he was trying to determine if you posed a threat to his operations, but Emma, over time, his focus on you became more personal and more dangerous. Detective Richardson pulled out several photographs that made Emma's stomach lurch. They showed her walking to school, sitting in her bedroom window, talking with friends in the park. The images had been taken with a telephoto lens from considerable distance, but they were clear enough to make her feel as though her privacy had been completely violated. He was planning to take me, Emma said quietly. It wasn't a question. Yes, Captain Martinez confirmed. We found detailed plans for abducting you. Henley saw you as both a threat to be eliminated and an opportunity to send a message to law enforcement. He wanted to demonstrate that he could strike at the heart of the investigation itself. Emma felt anger rising above her fear. But he made a mistake by threatening me directly. Exactly. If he'd remained focused on his original targets, he might have continued operating undetected. But his obsession with silencing you led him to take risks that ultimately brought down the entire network. The interrogation of David Henley revealed even more disturbing information. Under questioning, he admitted to being part of what he called a community of like-minded individuals who shared resources and information online. They used encrypted messaging apps and coded language to coordinate their activities across state lines. A most chilling part, Detective Richardson told Emma later that evening as they sat in their living room, is how organized they were. They had protocols for avoiding detection, systems for sharing information about potential targets, and even methods for disposing of evidence if they were discovered. Emma's mother, Linda Richardson, who had been notably quiet since learning the full extent of the danger her daughter had been in, finally spoke up. How many children were they planning to hurt? We may never know the full extent, her father replied honestly. But based on the files we've found, they were actively planning operations targeting dozens of children across multiple communities. Emma's intervention likely prevented numerous tragedies. Over the following weeks, as the FBI investigation expanded, the true scope of the network became apparent. Arrests were made in 7 states, with suspects ranging from unemployed drifters to respected community members who had used their positions to access children. Emma found herself thrust into the spotlight as news of the case broke. Local and national media outlets wanted to interview the teenage girl whose sharp eyes broke up a child trafficking network. Her father and Captain Martinez worked to shield her from most of the attention, but Emma felt a responsibility to speak out about what she'd learned. The experience had changed her in ways she was still processing. She'd always been observant, but now she understood the power and responsibility that came with paying attention to the world around her. She'd seen evil up close and personal, but she'd also learned that ordinary people could make extraordinary differences when they chose to act on their instincts. 3 weeks after Henley's arrest, Emma was asked to testify before a grand jury about her observations and experiences. Sitting in the formal courtroom facing a panel of adults who hung on her every word, Emma felt the weight of the responsibility she'd taken on. "Miss Richardson," the prosecutor asked, "when you first saw the van on your street, what made you continue watching it rather than dismissing it as unimportant?" Emma thought carefully about her answer. "My father always taught me that when something doesn't fit the normal pattern, it's worth paying attention to. A van sitting on our street for hours with covered license plates and tinted windows didn't fit our neighborhood's pattern. Then, when I saw how it was positioned to watch children playing, every instinct I had told me something was wrong." "Were you afraid when you realized someone was watching you and your friends?" "Yes," Emma admitted, "but I was more angry than afraid. These people were targeting innocent children, and they thought they could intimidate me into staying quiet. I couldn't let that happen." "What would you tell other young people who might notice something suspicious in their communities?" Emma looked directly at the grand jury members as she answered. "Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't assume someone else will notice or someone else will take action. You might be the only person in position to see what's really happening." The grand jury proceedings led to additional indictments as more evidence was uncovered. Henley, faced with overwhelming evidence and the possibility of life imprisonment, began cooperating with investigators in exchange for a plea agreement. Through his cooperation, authorities learned about the network's recruitment methods, their communication systems, and their plans for expansion. Most importantly, they identified additional victims who had never come forward and connected the network to several unsolved disappearances from previous years. Emma's role in the case brought her recognition. She neither sought nor wanted. She received letters from parents thanking her for protecting their children, awards from law enforcement organizations, and speaking invitations from schools and community groups. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. Sophie and Sam Henderson, the 8-year-old twins Emma had watched playing in their yard the day she first spotted the van, asked their parents if they could meet her. Their mother, Dr. Sarah Henderson, called Emma's family to arrange the meeting. "Emma," Dr. Henderson said when they gathered in the Richardson family living room, "Sophie and Sam wanted to thank you personally. They've been having nightmares since they learned about what could have happened to them. But they also wanted to tell you that they think you're a hero." Sophie, the more outspoken of the twins, looked directly at Emma with serious 8-year-old eyes. "Were you scared when you saw the bad man watching us?" "Yes," Emma answered honestly. "I was very scared. But sometimes we have to be brave even when we're frightened, especially when it means protecting people we care about." Sam, typically quieter than his sister, asked, "How did you know he was bad?" "He looked like a normal person." Emma knelt down to Sam's eye level. "That's what made it scary. Bad people often look just like everyone else, but they do things that don't make sense if they're good people. Like sitting in a van for hours watching children play or covering up their license plates so no one can identify them." "Dr." Henderson wiped away tears as she watched her children process this difficult conversation. "Emma, I can never adequately thank you for what you did. As a mother and as someone who works with children professionally, I know how rare it is for someone so young to show such courage and wisdom."
Emma felt the weight of responsibility that had been building since the case began.
She wasn't just Emma Richardson anymore. She was the girl who had stopped a predator network. It was both empowering and overwhelming. As the weeks passed, Emma struggled to return to normal teenage life. Her friends looked at her differently now, with a mixture of admiration and unease. Teachers treated her with new respect. Even her parents seemed to view her as more adult than adolescent. The psychological impact of her experience became apparent during a counseling session Dr. Martinez had recommended. Emma found herself constantly scanning her environment for threats, unable to fully relax even in familiar places. It's normal to feel hyper-vigilant after what you've been through, Dr. Karen Walsh, her counselor, explained. You've seen firsthand that real dangers exist, and your mind is trying to protect you by staying alert for similar threats. But I can't live like this, Emma said. I jump every time I see a van. I can't concentrate in school because I'm watching everyone too closely. I feel like I'm seeing potential predators everywhere. The goal isn't to go back to the way things were, Dr. Walsh replied. You've gained knowledge and awareness that will always be part of who you are. The goal is to find a healthy balance between appropriate caution and being able to live freely. Through counseling and the support of her family, Emma gradually learned to manage her heightened awareness. She realized that her experience, while traumatic, had given her valuable insights that could help others. She began volunteering with a local organization that taught safety awareness to children and parents. Speaking to groups about recognizing suspicious behavior and trusting their instincts became a way for Emma to channel her experience into something positive. But even as she worked to help others, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that her story wasn't over. Henley had been arrested and his network disrupted. But the investigation had revealed how sophisticated and widespread these criminal organizations had become. Late at night, as she lay in bed looking out her bedroom window, Emma sometimes wondered how many other vans were parked on quiet streets, how many other predators were studying potential victims, and how many other communities remained unaware of the dangers lurking in their midst. She'd learned that evil often wore ordinary faces and drove unremarkable vehicles, but she'd also learned that ordinary people, even teenagers with binoculars and sharp eyes, could make extraordinary differences when they chose to pay attention and act on what they observed. The network David Henley had been part of was broken, but Emma understood that the larger fight against those who would harm children was ongoing. She'd played her part in one battle, but the war continued. What Emma didn't yet realize was that her involvement in this case had attracted attention from other quarters, and that her reputation as someone who could spot hidden dangers would soon draw her into another investigation that would test her courage and intelligence in entirely new ways. As she drifted off to sleep, Emma found herself thinking not about the past, but about the future, and about all the other children who might need someone to notice when something didn't fit the pattern, someone willing to look closer when others looked away. Her experience had taught her that heroism wasn't about having superpowers or special training. Sometimes it was simply about being awake to the world around you and caring enough to act when you saw something wrong. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to make a difference, and new chances to prove that paying attention to the details others missed wasn't just a skill, it was a responsibility. 6 months had passed since David Henley's arrest, and Emma Richardson had begun to feel like her life was returning to some version of normal. The constant media attention had died down, the enhanced security around her family had been lifted, and she'd even managed to get through several weeks without having nightmares about white vans and threatening text messages. It was a warm spring evening when everything changed again. Emma was working on college application essays at her desk when her phone rang. The number was familiar but unexpected. Agent Sarah Martinez from the FBI, who had been the lead investigator on the Henley Network case. Emma, I'm sorry to bother you, but we need your help again. Emma felt her stomach clench with familiar anxiety. What's happened? We've arrested 3 more members of Henley's network over the past month. During interrogation, one of them revealed something that changes everything we thought we knew about the case. What do you mean? Emma, David Henley wasn't the leader of this network. He was middle management at best. The person who was actually running the operation is still out there. And according to our new information, he's planning something much bigger than anything we prevented before. Emma sat down heavily in her desk chair. How much bigger? We believe he's planning to target the Spring Valley Elementary School Carnival next weekend. Emma, there will be over 1,000 children and families at that event. If he's planning what we think he's planning, Agent Martinez didn't need to finish the sentence. Emma understood the implications immediately. Why are you calling me? I'm not a police officer or an FBI agent. I'm just a teenager who noticed something suspicious. You're the teenager who broke up the largest child trafficking network we've seen in this region, Agent Martinez corrected. And according to the intelligence we've gathered, you're also specifically being targeted by this network's leader, Emma. He blames you personally for destroying his operation. Emma felt the familiar chill of fear creeping up her spine. What's his name? Marcus Webb. He's 53 years old, a former elementary school teacher who was fired 5 years ago for inappropriate conduct with students. Since then, he's been building this network systematically, recruiting people like Henley to do the field work while he remained in the shadows. And now he wants revenge. More than that, our informant told us that Webb sees the school carnival as an opportunity to accomplish 2 goals: demonstrate that his network is still operational despite our arrests, and eliminate the person who caused him to lose years of work. Emma realized that once again her world was about to be turned upside down. What do you need me to do? We want you to attend the carnival as planned, but under heavy surveillance. We believe Webb will make contact with you there, and when he does, we'll be ready to arrest him and shut down the remainder of his operation permanently. Emma's first instinct was to refuse. She'd already done her part, already risked her life to stop these people. She deserved to be a normal teenager, not bait in an FBI operation. But then she thought about Sophie and Sam Henderson, about the hundreds of children who would be at the carnival, about all the families who had no idea that a predator network was planning to target their community's most beloved annual event. If I do this, if I help you catch Webb, will it really be over? Will my family be safe? Emma, I can't guarantee that there won't be other networks, other predators who might target communities like yours. But Webb is the key to this specific operation. With him arrested and his network dismantled, you and your family will be safe from this particular threat. Emma thought about her conversation with Dr. Jomad Walsh, her counselor, about finding a balance between awareness and paranoia, between protecting herself and living freely. I'll do it, she said finally. But I want full details about the security plan, and I want my father involved in every aspect of the operation. Done. Emma, I want you to know that what you're doing takes incredible courage. Most adults wouldn't be willing to put themselves at risk like this. After hanging up, Emma sat quietly for several minutes, processing the fact that her nightmare wasn't over after all. Then she went downstairs to find her parents and explain that their lives were about to be disrupted once again. Detective Richardson's reaction was predictably protective and conflicted. He understood the importance of the operation, but every paternal instinct rebelled against using his daughter as bait to catch a dangerous criminal. Absolutely not, he said immediately. Emma, you've done enough. More than enough. Let the FBI handle this without putting you at risk. Dad, he's specifically targeting me. If I don't show up at the carnival, he might disappear again, and this could go on for years. How many children will be hurt while he's still out there? Emma's mother, who had remained largely quiet during her daughter's previous involvement in the case, surprised everyone by supporting Emma's decision. Mike, she said to her husband, Emma has proven that she can handle dangerous situations, and if the FBI believes this is the best way to protect our community's children, then we need to trust their judgment. Linda, this is our daughter we're talking about. Yes, and our daughter is someone who stands up for what's right, even when it's dangerous. That's something we taught her, and I'm proud of who she's become. The week leading up to the Spring Valley Elementary School Carnival was filled with intensive planning and preparation. Emma met daily with Agent Martinez and the FBI tactical team to review the security plan, practice communication protocols, and rehearse various scenarios. The plan was complex but thorough. Emma would attend the carnival with her parents and several friends, appearing to enjoy herself normally while actually following a predetermined route that would take her through all areas of the event. Undercover agents would be positioned throughout the carnival as vendors, volunteers, and attendees. Emma would wear concealed communication devices and GPS tracking, allowing the team to monitor her location and conversations at all times. Most importantly, Emma was instructed on exactly how to respond if Webb approached her. The goal was to keep him talking long enough for agents to move into position while gathering intelligence about any remaining members of his network. On the morning of the carnival, Emma woke early and spent extra time getting ready, knowing that this might be one of the most important and dangerous days of her life. She chose her clothes carefully, picking items that would conceal her communication devices while allowing her to move quickly if necessary. Her father drove her to the carnival grounds, both of them quiet during the 20-minute drive. Emma could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel. "Dad, I'm going to be fine. The FBI has planned for every possible scenario. Emma, there's something I need you to remember. No matter what Webb says to you, no matter what threats he makes or promises he offers, your only job is to stay safe until we can arrest him. Don't try to be a hero." "I'm not trying to be a hero, Dad. I'm just trying to make sure this ends today." The Spring Valley Elementary School Carnival was everything Emma remembered from her own childhood. Bright colors, the smell of cotton candy and popcorn, children laughing as they played games and rode rides. Under normal circumstances, it would have been a perfect spring day for a community celebration. But Emma couldn't shake her awareness that somewhere in this crowd of happy families was a man who had spent years planning to hurt children. A man who now wanted to hurt her specifically. Emma spent the first hour of the carnival following her predetermined route, playing games with Sarah and Marcus, eating carnival food, and trying to appear relaxed and natural. Through her earpiece, she could hear Agent Martinez providing updates on the positions of various team members. "Target not yet identified," Agent Martinez reported. "Continue normal activities. All units maintain positions." Emma was throwing rings at bottles in the game booth when she noticed him. He was standing near the face painting station, watching her intently. Medium height, gray hair, wearing jeans and a blue polo shirt that made him look like any other parent or grandparent attending the carnival. But Emma could feel his focus on her like a physical weight. "Agent Martinez," Emma said quietly, turning away from the man while pretending to examine the prizes hanging from the game booth. "I think I've spotted him. Face painting area, blue polo shirt." "Confirmed. We see him. Continue your activities. Do not approach or make direct eye contact yet." Emma's heart was racing, but she forced herself to laugh at something Marcus said and to accept the small stuffed animal she'd won at the ring toss. Every instinct told her to run, but she knew that catching Webb was the only way to truly end this nightmare. 20 minutes later, as Emma was in line for cotton candy, the man approached her. "Emma Richardson?" She turned to face him, surprised by how normal he looked. She'd expected someone who radiated menace, but Marcus Webb could have been anyone's grandfather. "Yes, I'm Marcus Webb. I think you know why I'm here." Emma's training kicked in. "Keep him talking. Gather information. Stay calm. I know who you are. I know what you've done." Webb smiled, and Emma saw the cold calculation in his eyes that his grandfatherly appearance couldn't hide. Do you really understand what you've cost me? Years of planning, dozens of carefully selected candidates, an entire network of associates, destroyed by one nosy teenager with a pair of binoculars. "Those weren't candidates," Emma said, her anger overriding her fear. "They were children. They were people with families who loved them. They were opportunities," Webb replied matter-of-factly, "and you took those opportunities away from me. But, Emma, I'm a patient man. I've spent months planning this moment, planning how to make you understand the consequences of interfering with my work." Emma could see families with children walking past them, completely unaware that they were witnessing a confrontation between a teenager and one of the most dangerous predators the region had ever seen. What consequences? Look around you, Emma. Hundreds of children, thousands of people, all gathered in one place, all trusting that they're safe at a community event. Do you see how easy it would be to change that? Do you understand how quickly a celebration can become a tragedy? Emma felt sick as she realized Webb wasn't just planning to hurt her. He was planning something that would affect everyone at the carnival. "What are you talking about? I have associates positioned throughout this carnival. Good people who understand that you need to be taught a lesson. With one phone call from me, Emma, this entire event becomes chaos. Panic, confusion. Children separated from their parents in the rush to escape. Escape from what?" Webb's smile became predatory. "Fire alarms, smoke bombs, a few well-placed reports of suspicious packages. Nothing that will actually hurt anyone, of course. But in the panic that follows, it would be so easy for certain children to disappear in the confusion." Emma realized that Webb had planned not just revenge against her, but an operation to kidnap multiple children using the chaos he would create as cover. Through her earpiece, she could hear Agent Martinez. "Emma, we need more details about his associates and their positions. Keep him talking." "How many associates?" Emma asked. "Enough." "Emma, you have a choice to make. You can come with me quietly right now, and I'll call off the operation. Or you can refuse, and dozens of children will pay the price for your stubbornness." Emma looked around the carnival with new eyes, trying to spot Webb's associates among the crowd. She saw a man near the dunking booth who seemed to be watching her conversation rather than the game. A woman by the pony rides who was paying more attention to the crowd than to the children. Several other adults who were positioned strategically around the carnival grounds. "You're bluffing," Emma said, hoping she was right. "Am I?" "Emma, at exactly 3 o'clock, my associates will begin implementing the plan. It's now 2:55. You have 5 minutes to decide whether you're willing to sacrifice all these children to protect yourself." Emma's mind raced. If she went with Webb, she'd likely disappear forever, but the children at the carnival would be safe. If she refused and tried to alert the FBI, Webb might trigger his plan before agents could stop his associates. Then Emma remembered something Agent Martinez had told her during their preparation sessions. Sometimes the best way to stop a criminal is to force them to reveal their plans completely. "I want proof," Emma said. "If you really have people positioned around here, prove it. Have one of them signal to me." Webb looked annoyed but pulled out his phone. He sent a quick text, and within seconds the man near the dunking booth raised his baseball cap and lowered it. Satisfied? Not really. Anyone could do that. "If you want me to believe you have enough people here to create real chaos, I need to see more evidence." Webb's expression darkened. "You're stalling. I'm being careful. If I'm going to sacrifice myself to protect these kids, I want to make sure you can actually carry out your threats." Emma was indeed stalling, but she was also gathering crucial intelligence. With each person Webb had signaled to her, Agent Martinez and her team were identifying and tracking his associates. "Fine," Webb said finally. "You want a demonstration?" He sent another text, and suddenly the woman near the pony rides pulled a fire alarm. The loud, piercing sound sent immediate panic through the carnival. Parents grabbed their children, vendors began shutting down their booths, and people started moving rapidly toward the exits. "Stop it!" Emma shouted over the noise. "You've made your point. I'll come with you." But Webb was no longer listening to her. Emma could see in his eyes that the chaos energized him, that watching families panic was something he enjoyed. She realized that regardless of whether she cooperated, he intended to follow through with his plan. That's when Emma made a decision that surprised even her. Instead of trying to follow Webb or wait for the FBI to close in, Emma turned and ran toward the nearest family with small children. She grabbed the mother's arm and shouted over the fire alarm, "This is a false alarm. There's no fire. Get to the main exit and call 911. Emma repeated this message to every family she could reach, running through the panicking crowd and trying to prevent the chaos that Webb was counting on to cover his operation. Through her earpiece, she could hear Agent Martinez coordinating the response. "All units move in now. Suspect and associates are implementing their plan." Emma saw Webb realizing that his careful plan was falling apart. Instead of controlled chaos that he could manipulate, he was facing organized FBI response and a crowd that was being warned about what was really happening. Webb pulled out his phone again, presumably to trigger the next phase of his plan. But Officer Chen appeared seemingly out of nowhere and tackled him to the ground before he could complete the call. Around the carnival grounds, other FBI agents were simultaneously arresting Webb's associates. The fire alarm was shut off, and Agent Martinez's voice came over a loudspeaker. "This is the FBI. The fire alarm was a false alarm. Please move calmly toward the exits while we secure the area." Emma found herself surrounded by Agent Martinez and several other officers, all of them looking relieved but also concerned. "Emma, are you hurt?" "No, I'm fine." But Agent Martinez, he had a whole plan. He was going to use the chaos to kidnap children during the evacuation. "We heard everything through your wire. Emma, the intelligence you gathered allowed us to identify and arrest 7 members of Webb's network. This operation is finished." As Emma looked around the carnival grounds, she saw families beginning to calm down as FBI agents explained what had really happened. Children who had been crying in fear were now looking curious about all the law enforcement officers. Parents who had been panicking were now asking questions and trying to understand how their community celebration had turned into a crime scene. Emma realized that despite the frightening moments, Webb's plan had ultimately failed completely. No children had been hurt, no families had been permanently separated, and the entire remaining network had been captured. Detective Richardson reached Emma before she'd fully processed what had happened. "Emma? Sweetheart? Are you all right?" "Dad, it's over." "It's really over this time." "Yes, it is." "Emma, what you did today, I've never been prouder of you, and I've never been more terrified for you." Emma hugged her father tightly, finally allowing herself to feel the fear she'd been suppressing throughout the confrontation with Webb. Agent Martinez approached them as the carnival grounds continued to be processed as a crime scene. "Emma, I need you to know that what you accomplished today goes far beyond catching Marcus Webb. The intelligence we gathered from his associates has given us insight into similar networks operating in other states. Your courage today may have protected countless children across the country." Over the following weeks, as the legal proceedings began and the full extent of Webb's network was revealed, Emma found herself reflecting on how much her life had changed since that first day she'd noticed a suspicious van on her street. She'd learned that evil could hide behind ordinary appearances, that predators often operated in sophisticated networks, and that ordinary people had the power to make extraordinary differences when they chose to pay attention and act courageously. But perhaps most importantly, Emma had learned that heroism wasn't about being fearless. It was about being afraid but choosing to do the right thing anyway. As she prepared to start her senior year of high school, Emma knew that her experiences had changed her forever. She would never again be the naive teenager who thought her biggest worry was college applications. But she'd also never again doubt her ability to face dangerous situations and make difficult choices. The white van that had started it all was now evidence in a federal courthouse. Marcus Webb and his entire network were behind bars. The Spring Valley Elementary School Carnival would be remembered not for the chaos that was planned, but for the community that came together to protect its children. Emma Richardson would be remembered as the teenager whose sharp eyes and brave heart had made all the difference. But Emma herself preferred to think of it simply as paying attention to the world around her and refusing to look away when something didn't fit the pattern. Sometimes, that's all it takes to change everything.